Series of talks, we are exploring the metaphysical science of mind teachings found in the classic movie, The Wizard of Oz. Great movie. And because there are so many spiritual lessons provided by the ruby slippers, so the name of our talk is Hold Tight to Those Ruby Slippers, that we have 4 big spiritual lessons that will be coming out of that. And we're going to jump right in. I did kind of try to buy some, I really wanted to buy some sparkly red shoes, but I couldn't find any. So, the first lesson, the body of this talk is, the first lesson in the slippers is when Dorothy's house comes crashing down in Munchkinland. Remember that? I can't wait to see the movie next week. It comes crashing down in Munchkinland, and all the little munchkins are running around, and it lands on and kills the Wicked Witch of the East. The munchkins are really thrilled because they got rid of this terrifying witch, and then they were also thrilled to find out that Dorothy was not a witch. They didn't know. But the joy is quickly cut off when the deceased witch's sister, an even more wicked witch from the west, shows up. And she threatens to drop a house on Dorothy. Glinda, the good witch, she was a pretty good witch, of the north, appears in the coolest vehicle of all times, this big pink bubble. And there's Witch Glinda. And she diverts the other witch's attention by pointing out the ruby slippers, which were still on the feet of the witch with the house landed on. And when the Wicked Witch of the West tried to pull those slippers off of her striped-socked feet, remember that visual? Sticking right out? You know, her feet like squished back, and then the slippers appeared, of course, on Dorothy's feet. There they were. So Glinda quickly points out where they are, and says to the Wicked Witch of the West, they're there, and that is where they shall stay. The Wicked Witch, of course, is irate. I'm the only one who knows how to use them, she said, and they're of no use to you. Keep tight inside them, said Glinda. Their magic must be powerful, or she wouldn't want them so much, so desperately. When Glinda said this to Dorothy, metaphysically, what she is actually telling her is never to forget the idea that within her is this divine spark, a divine spark, and that she has the divine power to express her greatness. So that's what these ruby slippers are going to represent to us this morning, a divine spark. All the while, though, Dorothy is standing there dumbfounded. She has no idea what is going on, not even beginning to comprehend this whole entire situation and these actually beautiful shoes on her feet. And it's kind of like she's oblivious to what is going on. And I know that there are many times in our lives where it might feel that we're dumbfounded or oblivious to what is going on around us. Could happen. But we are in a power. We stand in a power, the power of good. We stand in this power, not on it, in it. So our first spiritual lesson this morning is we are filled with a divine spark. We are filled with a divine spark, and we are immersed in, not on, this power of good. A power of greatness. Yes, greatness. Each and every one has that innate potentiality for greatness within them. We do, each and every one of us. Believe it or not, it's the truth. We are like, lots of times, we're like the fish that's swimming in the ocean. I love that analogy. That doesn't recognize the water. So that is us in the divine nature of God, is that we live, move, and have our being in this space-time reality, all the while We are having our being in the goodness of God, this divine energy. So that is the truth of each and every one of us. We each have a divine spark within us. We are born with this divine spark. It cannot go anywhere. It is our connection in this unified field of oneness. And no one can take it away from us. Nobody can take it away. Dorothy's ruby slippers then, made out of the rare and precious gemstones, are a radiant symbol of that inner spark that exists within each of us. It is our infinite potential for greatness. And I want to say that again because it really is the crux of today, that these slippers are a radiant symbol of our divine spark and of our infinite potential greatness. And greatness can be whatever you conceive it to be. It can be whatever you create. Remember, you are co-creating out of that unformed substance of life all of the time. So let us co-create a good dream, a good experience, a good life, because we can. We really can. We are each endowed with that infinite potential for greatness. And we have free will. Each and every one of us has free will to choose, to discover this divine spark within us. And not only to discover it, but to really connect with it, to know what it is, to feel it. Because, we talk about this stuff all the time, but how many of us really go within and connect with that indwelling divinity, that spark of God that is there, present in all of life? That's our task, if you will, or our joy. For me, it's a joy, because that connection really, it does keep us so centered, because this is the part of us that cannot be altered, destroyed, or damaged, or changed in any way. It is that God part of us, that divine energy, that infinite spark. So a group of us attended the Michael Beckwith concert on Friday night, where he spoke. But one of the things that he spoke about is at the Mind, Body, Spirit Expo. This is where a lot of our people are over there this morning. In Philly. It was really phenomenal event. The whole event was really great. But one of the things that he said is that there is I like this. There's a divine presence, not an absence. I just like that one phrase. A divine presence. There is nothing absent in God, right? In this divine energy we call God. It's wholeness. Wholeness means that it is complete unto itself. Each and every one of us has this God spark, that essence of radiance, that sparkly divinity within us. We each have it. This is activated and can only be activated through our awareness. And for this to be activated, it must be a conscious choice. A conscious choice. The function of our awareness, then, is that we move into that place of igniting that conscious choice and choose the good dream, or the good way of co-creating our lives. Because life is going to happen anyway, like Dorothy's up there in this Munchkin land. I mean, we could be in all kinds of circumstances, as Bill said in his prayer, and situation, and still, we can connect. That's the place of choice. That's the now, right? That's the now that we talk about. That's the place we can choose what to do with what we have. That is the place. And that choice in this now moment then co-creates our next experience. Because we're using a substance that already exists. We're like the fish in the ocean. We are in this sea of God stuff, of divinity. Ernest Holmes writes, while we do not have the power to destroy the divine idea of ourselves, we do have the ability to deface it, to make it appear discordant. Or, another thing he writes, No, he doesn't write anything else. All right. But we do. We have this ability to make make everything so much stickier or more complicated, if you will, than it really is. I like about simplifying the way that we think so that we have clarity. Clarity is one of the divine qualities, and we pray for clarity all of the time. Because the clearer we are in our thinking, then the clearer we are in our manifesting. Remember, thoughts manifest things. That's what the vision board workshop is about today. Thoughts and emotion manifest situations and things, experiences in our lives. So that's the big spiritual lesson number one. So what happens next in The Wizard of Oz? Glinda soon disappears in her pink bubble. We didn't have somebody with a Glinda costume. As she leaves Dorothy on her own to figure things out. And so that's our second big spiritual lesson. And Holmes said it this way. In studying the order of our evolution, it seems certain that it was necessary from the time that we were brought to a point of self-choice that we be let alone to discover our true nature. We are endowed with the attributes of self-choice and free will, he writes. So we must be allowed to make this great discovery for ourselves. And he also wrote, the law has evolved us to a point of individuality. So we're all individualized expressions of his greatness. And must now let us alone to discover the secrets of life for ourselves. And notice that he didn't say, leave us alone, but let us alone. A higher intelligence and power and an infinite law stand ready and waiting to respond to us. It's the law of attraction, the law of cause and effect. These laws are already in place, ready to give. It's the divine giver, remember? The divine giving nature of God. Waiting for us to ask in clarity. So we are not left alone. We are let alone. Because we can't be separated from the divine, from that infinite. That's the fallacy that we don't do. We are connected in this unified oneness. That's the beauty of New Thought, Science of Mind. It's about that connection, the unity of life. Not God here and me down here. It's all one. And that's why each one has within them that innate God spark. It's there, ready to be activated. It wants to be activated. That's when you feel joy. That's when you feel peace. That's when you feel well-being and everything is going great in your life. When that divine spark is activated, in alignment. The power of greatness is within us. And we are immersed in this sea of infinite possibilities. So let's look at the Wicked Witch of the West again for a moment. She has certainly defaced her inner spark. She actually doesn't look like she has much of an inner spark. Long before Dorothy arrived on the scene. And she wants those slippers really badly, but not so she can ignite her inner spark, but so that she can have power. She wants to be the greatest power in Oz. So it's not to ignite that indwelling God spark, it's the power. When we have lost touch with our truth, our true nature, our dreams, our greatness, our visions, when we've lost touch with our visions, when we have not kept our ruby slippers, if you will, on our feet, then we go in other ways looking to make ourselves complete. And one of them is certainly power. You might know a few people, you might be one of them, that have like this power thing going. But we're not talking about the spiritual power. When we talk about two different powers, when we talk about the power for good, that's the good. That's the divine power, the strength of God. We're talking about the human egoic need to control kind of power that wants to control or manipulate others. But that was the Wicked Witch of the West. She wanted to control all of Oz. But when the Wicked Witch of the West reaches for those ruby slippers, sparks fly off of Dorothy's feet. And she was quite shocked. She jumped back and said, "Fool that I am," she roared. "I should have remembered. Those slippers will never come off as long as you're alive." And she said, "My pretty." So, the spiritual lesson number 3. There may be people who want to extinguish your spark. You might find that there might be people around in your life. It could be teachers, politicians, bosses, partners, spouses, anyone that might, or it could be that group of that committee that resides in your head. I always have a party going on in my head. Sometimes we have this like committee, these voices that are out to sabotage our dreams and our desires. So that could be a part of the control. But they can never get those ruby slippers off your feet unless you let them. Remember that. You have free will. Remember that. It's so important. And if anyone says, "I didn't have a choice," they are mistaken. We always are at choice. Our thinking, we are always at choice. Always. How many times have you let someone else or yourself talk you out of fulfilling your dreams or pursuing that which is calling you into a bigger expression of yourself? It happens, you know, or you can't do this, all these different voices within ourselves and from others. It's time to stop that. Well, I know it's taken me my whole entire life to get to this point right here, right now, where I am not allowing anyone to divert me from my divine purpose, from my own freedom, from my own expressing my gifts as I see that I want to express them as me, which might not look like the way everyone else expresses them, because we're all individuals. So we can express ourselves in any way that we feel, as long as we're in harmony with spiritual truth. Spiritual truth will not fail you. Or you can feel it in your body, so that's how you know if you're in alignment or not. I encourage each and every one to go within, to look and connect with this indwelling light, because we all have it. We just have it covered up sometimes. To ignite our radiant selves. Ignite our radiant selves. And if you're not aware of or have connection with this divine spark, ask for guidance. Pray for guidance. You will get guidance. You will get guidance for sure. And so finally, lesson number 4, the big spiritual lesson number 4 is, after Dorothy throws a bucket of water on the Wicked Witch, accidentally liquidating her, everyone forgets about the ruby slippers until the wizard takes off in his hot air balloon without Dorothy. And Glinda then floats back into the scene again. She floats in and out. Like Glinda. And what she says is, you've always had the power. She's talking to Dorothy, so the wizard's gone, everyone that went to the wizard, and she says you've had the power within you all along to return to Kansas. Then why didn't you tell her before, demands the Scarecrow, failing to use that divine intelligence we talked about last week. Seen how to bring his divine intelligence. The Scarecrow, if you remembered, represents divine intelligence. So why didn't you tell her before? Because she wouldn't have believed me, said Glinda. She would not have, and this is one of the biggest spiritual lessons for all of us to get into. Buddha knew it. Buddha knew it. He taught it. Jesus taught it, that all paths, all philosophical paths, and now the scientific paths are moving into this also, proving that this actually is the same teaching. And it is that it is done unto you as you believe. It is done unto you as you believe. How deep is your belief? How deep is your belief in this innate goodness, the spark of divinity that is there, truly, to guide us, to love us, to really envelop us in its intelligence? It is done as you believe. Because your beliefs are beliefs. Activate the universal truths, the universal law, and act upon them to bring them into manifestation. Remember what the law is, and we teach this in our foundations class. It is that unformed substance, the energy that is divine, that we are existing in, like the fish in the ocean. That's what we're using. We are impressing upon this substance, and it brings our experiences into our lives. So if you change your thinking, as Ernest Holmes says, change your thinking, change your life. So if you believe the ruby slippers will take you home, they will. If you don't believe it, they won't. Your belief is activating the law. Do you believe you have a divine spark within you? Do you really believe that? Being honest with yourself. How deep is this belief? How deep is your faith? How deep is your trust? How deep is your knowing? True insight is an event that takes place in our consciousness. True insight is an event that takes place in our consciousness, which is our awareness. Our awareness. So, we go over the 4 big spiritual lessons here. Lesson number 1 was, we are filled with a divine spark, and we are standing in a power of good, a power for greatness. That's 1. Number 2, we are let alone, not left alone, let alone to discover this for ourselves, because we have free will. Lesson number 3, there may be people, or maybe even yourself, the ones in your head, who want to extinguish your desires, your dreams, your God spark, who tell you it can't be done. But they can never do this, or we can never do this to ourselves unless we allow it. So there's the free will again. Are we allowing ourselves and others to manipulate our visions, our dreams? Are we doing this? Got to be honest with ourselves. And the big lesson for number 4 is, it is done unto you as you believe. As you believe. So Ernest Holmes wrote in The Great Awakening, now is the time to awake out of sleep. The belief in a life apart from God's is a dream from which we must awake. If we are to taste the waters of reality, big reality, from which flows all the source of life. This awakening is a process of evolution, he writes, a little here and a little there, until the whole eye is open and we see that life is neither separate nor is neither separate from God or different from good. Life is God, and good is the only power there is or can be. God sees and knows only perfection and completion, happiness and satisfaction. When we shall think of ourselves as God knows us, then complete salvation will come to us. See ourselves as God sees us, complete, whole, and perfect. And so hold tight to those ruby slippers. Hold tight to the truth of who you are. Think of yourself as God thinks of you and as God loves you, always giving to you. Trust in this universal good because it is always, always present. So these ruby slippers then are divine spark, ready to radiate and come alive in our lives. Let it be free. Let it be free. And so together, let's hold tight. Let's hold tight. Let's hold tight to those ruby slippers. and really express ourselves in all of our truth and our uniqueness.